And we turn to chapter 13 in Holiness. And we learn now about Israel entered the covenant with God with 3 acts: circumcision, immersion in the mikvah, and offering a sacrifice. Can we read what we're reading? Thank you. What did we just read? Israel entered the covenant with God, right? Yeah. Excellent. Circumcision took place in Egypt before the Paschal sacrifice, of which it says, no uncircumcised person shall partake of it. Moses, our teacher, circumcised the people. For the exception of the tribe of Levi, the entire people were neglected the covenant of circumcision in Egypt, regarding the praises to the Levites, saying that they upheld your covenant. They had circumcision even in Egypt during the time of slavery.
Everyone didn't circumcise themselves?
Well, it doesn't mean Moses physically did it. No, that's what it means. It means he commanded it to the people, right? It doesn't mean physically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's, he had only a small household here. We're talking a lot of people, right?
Yeah. Assembly line.
Immersion was performed in the desert before the giving of the Torah, as it says, sanctify them today and tomorrow, and have them wash their garments. Sacrifice were also offered then, as it states, and he sent out youth of the children of Israel, and they brought burnt offerings. They offered them as agents of the entire Jewish people.
How did you do immersion in the desert? You didn't have any natural water.
Right. So first of all, they had a wellspring with them from Miriam and the merit of Miriam. So I don't know if it refers to that. I don't know if it means like they were throwing water on them. I don't think it means. I don't think it was a mikveh bathhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's what it means.
No.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So now, as David said, we're going to go into what it means conversion based on that. 4. Similarly, all future generations, when a non-Jew, a Gentile, desires to enter the covenant, right? That's how the Jews entered the covenant, right? To take shelter under the yoke, under the wings of the divine presence and accept the yoke of Torah. He or she must undergo, circumcision, immersion, and offering a sacrifice. A woman who converts must undergo immersion and bring a sacrifice, right? As it is for you, so it shall be for the convert. Just as you entered the covenant with circumcision, immersion, and offering a sacrifice, so too in the future generations, the convert must undergo circumcision, immersion, and must bring a sacrifice.
Bring the sacrifice.
We don't. We don't. Which means that it's a part of conversion, but it's not the integral, essential part of conversion, right?
So during the times of the temple, people had to, even if you were a natural born Jew, you had to do an immersion.
Times of the temple? No, we're talking about Jews. But we're talking about Israel, Mount Sinai. We're talking about right. They were circumcised. Okay. Circumcised is a one-time thing, right?
One-time event. Okay.
Right. But the immersion. This is how they came into the covenant, because at Mount Sinai, becoming a Jew was a different definition than it was before that.
Yeah.
Right. It became a soulful thing. Right. You have a Jewish soul. So they were all. I think we're going to learn that here. They're all like converts. Yeah. All the Jewish people were like converts in Mount Sinai. Yeah. Moses himself was like a convert, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because now being Jewish was based on soul.
Yeah.
So that means they entered the covenant then. The covenant of the Torah. Yeah. How did they enter? They had to have circumcision. That was already in Egypt, not Abraham. Egypt. They converted. Right? Already in Egypt, they did circumcision because the Paschal lamb offering was offered before they went out of Egypt.
Yeah.
And it says clearly anybody who was uncircumcised cannot partake in it.
Yeah.
And only those who partook in it, those who went out of Egypt, right? Yeah. So they were all circumcised. Levites were already circumcised, but those who were not were circumcised at that time. And then as he said, the sprinkling came afterwards at Mount Sinai, right? That they had that they were cleansed by water, immersion. It was like immersion. It wasn't, I don't think it was like in a mikvah itself, but similar to it, right? And the offerings that they brought, okay?
Yep.
So what is the sacrifice that a convert is required to bring? A burnt offering of an animal, or 2 turtle doves, or 2 fledgling doves? Both of the doves must be brought as burnt offerings. In the present age, there is no sacrifices. The convert must undergo circumcision, immersion. When the temple will be rebuilt, he must bring a sacrifice. So Mashiach is coming today. So converts will have to bring a sacrifice. The truth is, all Jews will need to bring sacrifice, sin offerings, and different things. Will have to bring. It's going to be very busy. Yes. Yes. Number 6, when a convert is circumcised but does not immerse himself, or immerse himself but is not circumcised, he is not considered a convert until he performs both of these activities. He must immerse himself in the presence of 3 men. Since a court is required, he may not immerse on Shabbos or on the festivals or during the night. If, however, they had him immerse at night, he is a convert. Not on Shabbos, though, right?
3 men, not 3 holy men, or right? 3 men.
That's a good question. Well, back then, everyone was more righteous. Maybe the halakha is different than the
One second.
No.
Yeah. So there's different opinions on exactly what this means. But let's go with the idea. It's a rabbinic law, right? It's not a biblical law.
Okay.
It's a rabbinic law. This court it's a court of 3, and he doesn't go into this over here, but it has to be an appropriate court that's considered a rabbinic court, right? And of course, part of that will be that it's being done properly, and it will be accepted as a proper rabbinic court,
Yeah.
right? So that what? I was just saying that you have to do it before 3 people. They are a rabbinic court. This is a rabbinic law it's a rabbinic court, right?
Temporarily.
In Beit Din, yeah. Rabbinic court is in Beit Din, exactly. So it means there has to be an appropriate rabbinic court, meaning people who are, can be part of that rabbinic court. That's all. Okay.
These 3 people who are in it,
What?
So it's helpful if it's 3 people from the Bedin, 3 judges.
Yeah, exactly. It says 3 men, but it says since a court is required, court is required.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it's a court of 3 men,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So they have to be, capable of being on a court, right?
Yeah.
Number 7, we immerse a minor who seeks to convert based upon the guidance of the court, for it is an advantage for the person to convert. When a pregnant woman converts and immerses herself, her child does not require immersion. Afterwards, in other words, it's enough with her immersion. Okay. When a court immerses himself alone and converts alone, when a convert, rather, not court, right? Or even if he does in the presence of 2 persons, his conversion is not valid. Because 2 people is not a court. If he comes and says, I converted by a court so-and-so, and they had me immersed, his word is not accepted with regard to the license of Mary among the Jewish people, unless he brings witnesses to testify that the truth to his statements. So you could consider that person, excuse me, It's a bit. The key over here is that if he comes and says he's a convert, so to be part of a minyan, you can accept that person, right? But marriage is a very
Yeah.
strict, and it's about the future of the Jewish people, right?
Yeah.
So then we don't accept his word. Huh? It's not about marriage. We're not talking about marriage here. I didn't say marriage. No, to get married. He wants to get married. We're not talking about getting married. He wants to get married. So a rabbi's not going to marry him if he just comes and says that I'm a convert without proving it.
Yeah.
So today you'd have documentation, right? Or you have witnesses, right? Documentation could be forged. Back in the day, they could be forged. Today, it can't be forged. Why?
You could call someone.
Exactly. You're going to call the guy.
Yeah.
But someone brings me a document, I'm calling up. I'm not basing it on what that, right? Because today anything can be forged,
Yeah.
right? But it won't. But it, you're gonna use that document. But back in the day, if you were, there's no way to contact the person. You're
Yeah.
gonna send a letter 1,000 years ago. How long will it take it's gonna get to the person, right? Meantime, he's married with a few kids.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap up. Okay, good. Number 8, the following rules apply. If he was married to a native-born Jewess or a convert and he already fathered children, if he says I converted alone, his word is accepted with regard to the disqualification of himself, right? Now he says he's not Jewish anymore. He said, I converted alone. I decided I want to be Jewish, right? But not with regard to the disqualification of his children. He must immerse himself again in the presence of the court. Wow. Good
His word is
question.
accepted.
By the way, good question over the Magi Mishnah asks over here on the Rambam. Well, how could he disqualify his kids anyways? The kids aren't Jewish based on him.
Yeah.
His kids are Jewish based on the mother. The mother's Jewish.
Yeah.
Right? So he explains a lot of difference in the situation where both parents are converted privately. In that instance, they were disqualified children because of their statements that would, right? They were both converted privately, not with the base did. He must immerse himself again in presence of a court. Okay, the following rules apply with regard to a female convert who we see conduct herself according to the ways of Israel at all times. For example, she immerses herself after being a nida, she separates truma from dough or the like, and to a male convert who follows the path of Israel. For example, he immerses himself after seminal emission, or he performs all the mitzvahs. These are considered as righteous converts, even though there are no witnesses from whom they converted. Nevertheless, if they come to marry among the Jewish people, we do not allow them unless they bring witnesses or they immerse themselves in our presence. The rationale is their identity was originally established as Gentiles. In other words, like this, we do everything based on a principle. There's a principle called, what your status is, right? So your status is that you were a non-Jew. The fact that you're acting like a Jew doesn't change that status when it comes to marriage, because marriage is also changing a status, right?
Yeah.
Single to a married person, stating it. So you can't change that status unless you have witnesses to prove it, right? The very fact that you're acting that way is, right, is so you're a righteous, you're following the Jewish way, but that doesn't give you the prerogative based on that to, right, to marry, right?
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Need still the witnesses, or they have to immerse again.
Rabbi, can I ask a question?
5 seconds. Okay. If, however, a person comes and says that he was a non-Jew, but that he was converted by a court, his word is accepted. The rationale is that the mouth that forbade him is the same that permitted him. Why? Because he didn't have to say that. He could have said, I'm a Jew. Okay, he could have lied and said, I'm born a Jew. So the fact that he was honest and say that I was a convert and I would convert it in front of a court, right? Again, no doubt, if there was documentation, that's a different story, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't know if documentation would be sufficient. Because here we're talking about witnesses, right? We didn't say anything about documentation. It seems like that wouldn't be sufficient. Armin, do you have a question?
Yes, can you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Your hand is up?
Yes.
Yes?
Don't
Don't
you
hear
said
you if yes.
a woman who separates
Sure.
chuma from the dough? How do you separate chuma from dough?
Try now, maybe.
I wanted to ask about separating the chuma from the
All right.
dough. How is that?
I don't think he's hearing you.
Yeah,
No.
he's doing.
So, okay. When does the above apply in Eretz Yisrael in the Talmudic era? For at that time, all the people there could be assumed to be Jewish. And the Asher, however, must be proof of his conversion. Because when they lived in Babylonia, right, it was like densely Jewish
Densely Jewish?
in the Jewish areas, right? But now in the diaspora, you have to bring proof. Only afterwards may he marry a Jewess. I say that this is an additional stringency adopted to protect the purity of our lineage. And that's a very important thing. It's called yuchsin. Just as we circumcise and immerse converts, so too we circumcise and immerse servants who are acquired from non-Jews for the sake of servitude. Right? Non-Jews, right? They become servants. I mean, we don't have this law today, but back in the day when there was, right? So they would have to circumcise and go to the mikvah.
Aren't they in like a half state?
Yes, they're a half. They're not. Yeah, they're only a half state. Yes. Let's see further. When a person acquires a servant from the Gentiles and the Gentiles take the initiative and an immersion with the intent of becoming a free man, he acquires his own person. Provided he says, while immersing, behold, I am immersing before you for the sake of conversion. If he immerses himself in the presence of his master, he does not have to make an explicit statement. Instead, since he immersed himself, he attains his freedom.
Wow. Why mark the person stuff?
And we don't have servants today.
But to become free, you could just convert to Judaism. No?
No.
Okay.
He has to become free as a slave. That's how it becomes. A non-Jewish slave that's a servant for a Jew has to keep all the negative commandments.
Yeah,
So they keep Shabbos,
yeah.
right? Can't eat non-kosher.
They keep family purity. That'd be negative, like you shouldn't have relations.
Yeah, seemingly correct. Seemingly correct, yes. But they don't put on tefillin
Yeah.
because that's a positive commandment,
Yeah.
right? When they are freed from servitude, that is their complete conversion
Okay,
to Judaism,
yeah.
right?
So that's the immersion, when immerses with the intent of becoming a free man.
Right. Then he has to, he has to go to the mikveh again.
So he can't get out of his servitude without convert. He can't be like, I want to get out of my servitude, but stay non-Jewish.
You could. Yes. I think you could. Not. These are not the laws here. We had those laws, but I don't remember now the details.
Very interesting.
Yeah. For this reason, when having a servant immersed, the master must push him into the water until he rises, at which time he is in his servitude. He must tell him that he is having him immersed for the sake of servitude, in the presence of judges. The reason why he has to push him is just to show a sign that he's a servant, like he's under his control. Servant must also immerse only in the presence of 3 judges and during the day as a convert, for it is a partial conversion.
Yeah.
When a servant is freed, he must immerse himself a second time in the presence of 3 men during the day. For through this act, his conversion is completed and the status becomes that of a Jew. It is not necessary for him to accept the mitzvahs, for the judges to inform him of the fundamentals of the faith, for they already informed him when he immersed himself for the sake of servitude. Right?
I know we learned at some other point about like how you could sell yourself, like a Jew could sell himself into slavery, you know, if you were like really destitute. Completely unrelated.
Completely unrelated. The only reason we're bringing this up because it's another way that someone becomes Jewish. We're learning about how you become Jewish,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How you become a holy person, the holy Jew. So that's why we're learning this. We're not learning it about the laws of servitude here,
Yeah.
right?
Do people become servants just so they can become Jews? Like, was
I would
that, like,
imagine. I
yeah.
would imagine. I mean, this didn't even exist during the Second Temple.
Yeah.
Oh, because only when there was Yovel, when there's Jubilee year, was there the law of servitude. Because the Jubilee year brings you the freedom. Once there isn't the Jubilee year, there's no servitude. Right? Actually, it's a Jewish slip. That's a Jewish servant, not
Okay.
okay.
But we're focusing on the converted part.
Excuse me. Convert servants and freed servants must immerse in the mikveh that is acceptable for a needed to immerse in all. And it can't be your bath.
Yeah.
Can't be your bathtub. Has to be a ritual mikveh. All the substances that disqualify the immersion because they intervene between the water and the flesh disqualify the immersions, convert servants and freed servants.
Naked.
One should not think that Samson, who saved the Jewish people, and King Solomon of Israel, who was called the friend of God, married Gentile women who did not convert. Instead, the matter can be explained as follows. The proper way of performing a mitzvah is when a male and female prospective convert comes, we inspect their motives for conversion. Perhaps he is coming for the sake of financial gain, in order to receive a position of authority, or he desires to enter the faith because of fear. For a man, we check whether he focuses attention on a Jewish woman. For the woman, we check whether she focuses her attention on Jewish youth. If we find no ulterior motive, we inform them of the heaviness of the yoke of the Torah and the difficulty the common people have in observing it, and so that they will abandon their desire. If they accept this introduction, they do not abandon their resolve. Thus, we see that they are motivated by love. We accept them, as indicated, and she saw that she was exerting herself to continue with her, and she ceased speaking with her. That's Ruth, story of Ruth. For this reason, the court did not accept converts throughout the reign of David and Solomon. Why? In David's time, they feared that they sought to convert because of the fear. And in Solomon's time, they feared because of motivated by the sovereignty, prosperity, and the eminence of it, which Israel enjoyed. They refrained from accepting such converts because a Gentile who seeks to convert because of the vanities of this material world is not a righteous convert. Right? Otherwise, you're going to have a better life.
Yeah.
In a material sense, not a spiritual sense, right? In a material sense. Huh?
Can't wear nail polish.
Nevertheless, there were many people converted in the presence of the ordinary people during the era of David and Solomon. Supreme Sanhedrin would view them with skepticism. Since they immersed themselves, they would not reject them, but they would not draw them close until they saw the outcome would be. Now, were they really observant?
So you could, you really shouldn't, but you could technically immerse back then during the times of David and Solomon.
Well, you see, it wasn't. They would probably have them go a second time just to make sure. Now, if they were really observant,
Yeah.
so that's one thing,
Yeah.
right? But if they're coming along for the ride, right? Today it's about marrying somebody.
Yeah.
back then in David, and it was out of fear, and King Solomon, it was because it was great prosperity. It was like, who doesn't want to be connected to someone in Hollywood, right? So, any Hollywood star is thinking about, what do you want a connection with me? Because what, it's going to be your stardom. So, that's ulterior motive. You're not interested in me. It's the same thing over here. You're not interested in Judaism. To become a Jew, you're going to have great opportunity, great prosperity, and so on. So therefore, they didn't want to accept converts in those days. Okay?
Yeah, makes sense. Same with the Messianic era.
Right? Solomon converted women and married them, and similarly, Samson converted women and married them. It's well known that they converted only because of an ulterior motive, and had their conversion was under the guidance of the court, and had their been under the court. Hence, the Tanakh considered it as they were Gentiles and remained forbidden. Moreover, they ultimately revealed their initial intent, for they would worship their false deities and build platforms to them. Therefore, the scripture considered as if Solomon built them, and then Solomon built the platform, as it says. When a court did not check the potential convert's background, it did not inform them of the mitzvahs and punishment, and failed to observe the mitzvahs and circumcise himself, and he circumcised himself and immersed in the presence of 3 ordinary people, he is a convert, even if it is discovered that he converted for ulterior motive. Since he can circumcise himself and converted, he has departed from the category of non-Jews, and we view him with skepticism until his righteousness is revealed. Right? There's still skepticism.
Yeah.
Even after his convert worships false days, he is like an apostate Jew. If he consecrates a woman, consecration is valid, where it's at the end of 17, and it is a mitzvah to return his lost object, for since he immersed himself to become a Jew. For this reason, Samson and Solomon maintained their wives, even though their inner feelings were revealed.
But it doesn't matter what their inner feelings are. We just learned that they're not Jewish. Like it's not a valid marriage he has with all these people. You can't convert someone else. You can't go and find a random person and say I'm converting into Judaism. We learned that it says you have to think it's like a genuine love.
Marriage or for use.
No, you can't convert for marriage.
For purpose of marriage?
No, you cannot convert just for marriage.
I didn't know that. I thought it said for marriage or for woman for use.
No, you can test if if the man is interested in a Jewish.
All right. So just to put it out there, we're learning Rambam, which is halachas from over 800 years ago, 900 years ago, which means this is not how we follow conversion today. Or for that matter, anything we do today is not, there's a basis in Rambam, but it's not the final say in halacha, right? When the Alter Rebbe in the Shulchan Aruch or the Beis Yosef in the Shulchan Aruch, when they adjudicate the law, they're taking Rambam as one of the main pillars, but he's not the only pillar that halacha is based on, right? There's the Ran, there's the Rosh, there's the Rif, other great pillars of that time period that halacha is based on. So it's not necessarily, right? So I've said this before, and just as a reminder, because it's important in these laws that we're learning, we don't follow halacha based on what we learn in Rambam here, right? Some of the things are according to his opinion, and some things are not. And not only that, sometimes there's added things. So like in conversion, it's always based on the recent, scholars of the day, because there's always something to add to the mix, especially when it comes to conversion, because there's outside influences that you need to consider, like marriage, right? And other things that would be today that we need to consider. So we go based on, the current, as opposed to, we're going to follow Rambam's way in conversion. No, we don't do that. And if someone does it, they're not following the proper path of halacha.
Yeah,
They have someone who to rely on. That's true, but that's not the proper way to do it. Right? Okay. I think we should be hearing now because I changed the Tim, I changed the speaker.
when it says Samson and Solomon maintained their wives even though their inner feelings were revealed, why is Rambam referring to them as
Testing, can you hear us?
wives when he just established before that these women's conversions were not valid, so then therefore they would not be his wives. They'd be his concubines.
I don't know. 16 says that they were forbidden. And now he's saying that he, since they immersed, they're Jewish. Seems to be a contradiction. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know. Don't have an answer. 18. For this reason, our sages said, converts are as difficult to Jewish people to bear as leprous blemish. Why? Most converts convert for ulterior motive and later cause Jews to stray. It's difficult to separate them once they have converted. Look at what happened in the desert and worship of the golden calf and Kibbutz Hataiva, last week's Torah portion. All right. Similarly, most of the complaints and the instances when our people tried God were instigated by the mixed multitude. So, right. That's why, by the way, there's another side to it. That's why there's another mitzvah in the Torah to love converts. You have to love them as a Jew, love them as a convert too. Why? Because they're going to have much more challenges coming from the past that they come from. Therefore, you need to love them even more. And through that, there'll be a greater propensity for them to stay true to Torah mitzvahs. But as I have experienced myself, very often converts, they just go back because there was either some kind of ulterior motive, and I've had it many times not, and many times yes. Akoy, you had a question? Your hands up.
Yeah, Rabbi, I don't think you're
Try
hearing
talking.
us.
It should work now.
Try talking now. Take off your mic. There you go.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, it's not working.
No,
Hello.
Try
maybe
now.
put it in the chat.
He's not
Can you-
even watching.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
No, it's
Testing
working now.
1, 2,
It's
3.
working now.
Okay. Okay, go
So-
ahead.
I thought I changed it, but it seems like it reverted.
We're muted all the time.
Ask your
Go ahead, Carmen.
Oh, I was asking, you mentioned the chuma from the dough, the women separate the chuma from the dough. How, I didn't understand about that.
Today I spoke about that? No?
In one of your comments, you used it as an example.
Tuma from the dough?
There was something mentioned about the dough, I think, in one of these verses.
There was.
That was one of the things that convert have to do.
Can you look? I don't, let me open up and take a look.
Yeah.
Oops. Huh?
What are stipulations for the convert? One of them was. that you
Let me
have to
take a
be-
look. I'm sorry, I don't recall now. Yeah, at the beginning or at the, when was that?
Oh,
Oh, here it is, here it is.
What number?
For a female convert, she immerses herself after being a knitter, she separates truma from dough and the like,
Oh. Yes. Yeah.
like showing that she's keeping the mitzvah.
I'm sure.
Right. Yeah, this is talking in times of the Holy Temple where there was, purity and impurity,
Yeah,
and there was, let's say you had dough that you separated when you were impure, so you can't use that for the sake of purity. In other words, like if you're going to Jerusalem and
yeah.
or second tithes and so on. That's what the reference is there.
oh, thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Rabbi Fine.
You're very welcome. Okay, anybody else? All right, sorry, I thought I changed the okay. All right, folks. God bless you all. Thank you for
Thank you.
joining me.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Good
Thank
day.
Thank you, Rabbi.